Hey there, podcast listeners. This is Corbett Lunsford, your host. This special episode of the Building Performance Podcast is from last year's Fall Fast Track, which is my annual 6-week mastermind course with people all over the world, all about profiting from home performance. If you'd like to learn more and pre-register for free, you can do that at homeperformance.training. Enjoy.
A rising tide lifts all boats. Fall Fast Track.
Today we are talking with John Krigger, who is an energy specialist who you might be familiar with because he's been in the industry for over 30 years. He is the author of Residential Energy. He is the president of Saturn Resource Management. John, thank you so much for taking time today.
You're welcome, Corbett. My pleasure.
You have been working with homeowners, and I'm particularly interested in the year 1981. You started running a company called Target Energy Savers, and you were working with air sealing and insulation and HVAC performance. Back in 1981, how were you talking to homeowners back then?
You know, I started in the construction business, and it's just selling construction work. And I worked with some people who taught me quite a bit about sales. Actually, I grew up in a small business. My dad taught me about sales. Then when I moved to Helena, in my early 20s, there was a hailstorm here. And baseball-sized hail fell for about 10 minutes, which created a lot of construction work. I mean, there was 1 million roofs to roof, and there was 1 million, windows to replace, and a lot of siding to be installed. And I got mixed up with these tin men and learned about, selling to the homeowner. And I think it's a matter of, attitude and, knowing how to do it. I mean, I think it's a lot of it is knowing sales in general, because I think if you know sales and you understand it and you have the right attitude, I mean, you could sell anything.
And it sounds like you, though, have used that power for the forces of good, where a lot of people think of sales and they think, oh, everybody's going to try and sell me things that I don't need. So what kind of tips would you offer to people, especially the black belts of my Fall Fast Track, as to how to keep their head on straight as far as sales technique, and also to keep reminding themselves that they are worthwhile, that it's important that their audience hear what they have to say because they're selling something that's good?
Yeah, that's right. I think, to start with, you've got to have a product that you believe in, because if you don't, man, it is a real grind. You also have to have this attitude that, sales is part of your job. It's one more thing that you do. And I mean, I hear so many people say, well, I'm really not cut out for sales and I don't really like to sell and blah, blah, blah. If you don't like to sell, and you're not good at selling, and you believe that, and you believe that that's not going to change, maybe you should go to work for somebody else and punch the clock,
So I know for a fact that there are some companies that will hire salespeople based on their sales technique and not necessarily on their expertise in what they are specifically selling for this company that's hiring them. So if we're talking about home performance and building performance in general, how much technical expertise do you think a salesperson would need in order to truly rock their client and not just slip in and sell them whatever needs to be sold at the moment?
Boy, that's a really good question. It depends on whether that salesperson is going to close the deal or whether you're going to close the deal. I think that, a salesperson doesn't have to know everything, but they really do. I mean, product knowledge, there's no substitute for product knowledge. No matter what you're selling, you have to know your product, and the better you know it, the better you're going to be able to represent yourself. And I think that having a real sales strategy with people is very important, and having your spiel down pat. I know a lot of people who sell home performance and other things, and each sales call is like starting from scratch almost. going to talk about personal things for a while, and then they're going to, they're not going to start in the same place or finish in the same place. And it makes it so much harder when you don't have some kind of a strategy. And we had a strategy where we just go out and get a lot of leads. And just so we had, 100 or 150 leads. And, we'd work our way down that list of leads and call people on the phone, ask them if they want a free energy audit, go to the home, give them some free advice, give them a piece of literature, and talk to them about what bothers them about their home. And one of the things that we had that I think a lot of home performance people neglect is that we did anything that they wanted to do, basically. Because, you can have subcontractors and things like that. There's just such a pent-up demand for repairs on homes and stuff. So we'd go in. We had a blower door, but it wasn't a door. It was this big, kind of looked like a sewer pipe, and we mounted it in a window, and kind of cardboarded it into the window, and we had kind of a crude, liquid manometer, and we do things that that way. And I mean, we did a combination of home performance and every kind of repair that you can think of.
And I think that distinction is really important, though, because if you were willing to do I know a fair amount of insulation companies who will not replace drywall or paint. And I'm like, you guys, you're a construction company. You're not a home performance company. Home performance is just part of construction. It's just the best part of it. So is that something that everybody should be willing to do, is patch up their own work and paint over it?
Not necessarily. I mean, you just get a subcontractor in there and just know what the subcontractor is going to charge you, know how to bid the subcontractor's work. I think it's really important to have a good relationship with subcontractors, like electricians, plumbers, drywallers. You're going to be calling them for a lot of small jobs. So the minute they are done with their project, give them a paycheck. Treat them good, and they'll come when you call them.
If you treat them well.
And there's a lot of contractors out there that aren't very good at answering the phone, aren't very good at selling, and they appreciate a flow of work. I mean, you see something that that you see electrical stuff that's unsafe, you just write it all down and put it on the contract. People love it.
Mostly they're looking for somebody that they can trust, both from the homeowner perspective and from the contractor perspective. So you can be
absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
I like that. So
yeah.
Now I'm curious for you too, like to get back to your book, and not just residential energy. That's the most famous book that you've written, but obviously all of the field guides, even the book for homeowners that you wrote. Do you think that writing stuff down, I think that you and I would both agree that when you teach something, you actually learn it way better than if you don't. Do you think that people should be writing things down and trying to put something down on paper so they can give out and have that be part of their sales strategy, so that you're not starting from the beginning with every client, like you said?
I don't think that that's necessary, but I'd say it helps if you have a good piece of literature that you can give the customer as a gift, kind of a short booklet, maybe even something. I mean, we do a lot of booklets for state energy offices where, you could go into the state energy office and scoop up 50 of these things at a time and, hand them out. We also have a handout for a healthy home evaluation. I think if I was doing home performance right now, that I would include a healthy homes aspect of that. It seems like we've really gotten concerned or maybe even overly concerned about certain safety aspects of our work. And hey, as long as we're concerned about safety and health, why not sell it too? I think that, the thing that's different from when I was doing home performance and now is that I never trusted that home performance could sell itself. That was a long time ago, and there wasn't as much awareness as there is now. But that's why I always mixed something with it, and I realized that there was a lot of pent up demand, and that, for things like repairs. And so, why not sell them too? And I think that, I'd say that at least 1 in 3 or 4 jobs that we sold because we gobbled up all the little repair work that they couldn't get anybody else to do. The customer was interested in the insulation, and they got the idea about the air leakage and the improvement in comfort and all of that. But, that contractors don't answer the phone, and they don't like little jobs, And so if you answer the phone and you take on little jobs, I don't think you'll ever want for work in this world.
Well, it's really interesting because it seems like the weatherization world that you and I are both familiar with, most of the time the contractors in those programs get trained that they are worth a certain number of dollars for each service that they do. And what I keep hearing again and again out in the free market is these contractors will talk themselves out of work with the client by telling them, oh, no, you don't want that. That's too expensive. And
that drives me crazy. If I hear another lecture about how triple pane windows aren't worth it, from a window person. I recently had a window broken. I have triple pane windows in my house, triple pane, double low E. And I don't know how the thing broke. A bird flew into it or something. And I called this guy who calls himself the window doctor. Okay, I'm the customer, right? Isn't the customer usually right at least? I say, okay, I've got all these triple pane windows. I've got a triple pane window broken. He said, well, if you don't mind, I'll just replace it with a double pane. I said, no, I want a triple pane window. I want it, 1 inch and 1/8 thick.
That would have been the perfect opportunity for you to say, do you know who I am? That's the Krigger moment.
Oh man, and I've had so many experiences like that, so many experiences just like you described, with people talking themselves out of work.
So how do you gear yourself up to take the little jobs that are like the little boring stuff that needs to just get done around a house, but be able to build it into a package that you can call profitable and it serves the customer? Is there kind of a mental trick that you have to do?
The subcontractors. You just have the subcontractors. You make a deal with a subcontractor. You say, listen, I see a lot of things that need patched up and that need repaired and this and that. Are you willing to, when I call you, if I give you a week's notice, I'd like you to show up. And when you show up and you do the job, and after the job is done, I will pay you immediately. So you have that agreement with every subcontractor that you're using, and you buy them bottles of whiskey, or give them gifts and pat them on the back and tell them how much that you appreciate them, and you just sell their work. You just know how much they're going to charge, and you charge considerably more, and you make a profit on it. I mean, it's not brain surgery.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's that thing about The Secret. I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of spiritual psychological trick that people are saying. The secret is positive thinking. But I think another part of The Secret is just knowing that other people don't do a very good job most of the time. So if you can do a better than adequate job, you're like miles ahead of most people. So I think that's treating people right is an easy way to do that.
answer the phone. Return your phone calls. Refer the customers as sir and ma'am. Ask a question about the homeowner's home, and then shut up and listen. And when they're done talking, then ask another question. And, ask questions like, well, you don't have much insulation in your attic. Do you think that insulation would help? Well, having more insulation would make your home more comfortable. And, they may say, well, I think so, but I'm not quite sure. And you say something like, well, a lot of our customers are, really sold on insulation because, it makes them more comfortable and it saves energy. Would you like, to talk to some of our former customers? And meanwhile, you should be at a home with somebody who's a relative or a friend of somebody who you did a job with before.
Yeah.
Because you've pumped all these people for referrals. So there's two things. There's referrals, and then there's leads that you get. And we used to get almost all of our leads at home shows. And really, we only had one home show. I mean, I live in a town that has 35 or 40,000 people in it. So we go to the home show, and okay, you can't go to a home show and just sit there in your booth. Okay, if you want to do that, you might as well not waste your time. You do something like raffle off a $100 bill, blower door test, window quilt. You have all these things you're going to raffle off. And then you stand out in the aisle as people are walking down, and you just herd them into your booth to sign up for your free raffle. And what you want from them is their name, their phone number, and their average monthly utility bill. There's your leads, Go there once a year, get 300 leads, and work them all year long in order of how high their utility bill is.
That is awesome. John, you are so interesting, and we're going to have you back onto the show to talk more about kind of a broader range of topics. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
You're welcome.
John Krigger is an energy specialist. He is the president of Saturn Resource Management. You've been listening to a special edition of the Building Performance Podcast. I'm Corbett Lunsford. Tune in next time.
A rising tide lifts all boats. Fall Fast Track.